Welcome everyone to Juicing with Tom going solo, kind of a rarity. I've usually got somebody with me. So today, I just got off this incredible trip, a 3-week trip, and at the tail end of it I spent some amazing time with my friend Davida, who healed herself using nature from a very aggressive form of ovarian cancer. She did it without any medical treatment whatsoever. So she taught me a lot of things, and it was all very simple. So in the spirit of that, I wanted to do a juicing episode where it is very simple, because let's face it, one reason why I loved having somebody else with me is because it was usually somebody else who was like an expert in this kinds of stuff. Really valuable. So intellectual acuity I was leveraging for these juicing shows, and they're all very awesome episodes. But for this one, I wanted to keep it simple, because I'm simple. I'm not an expert. I'm a lay person. Most of you out there are lay people, and you want a simple way to get healthy and to heal and to just be more conscious and living. So here we are, just me, something super simple, and typically, the more simple it is typically, the more effective it is too. And one thing Avita shared with me that I thought was really profound, she said something along the lines of, she was saying, if you want to be a gourmet chef, that's totally, completely awesome, but then it's more like feasting, and feasting doesn't really, its sole purpose isn't to go towards, feeding life and giving more life. It certainly can, but typically when Avita cooks stuff or juices, it's just 2 or 3, maybe 4 ingredients, super simple, and she's thinking in terms of like what it requires for human life to thrive. You could be out in the woods somewhere, you're hungry, what are you going to do? You're going to pick a cucumber and eat it, or a banana and eat it, or a tomato and eat it. And you're not going to go out there thinking, I'm hungry, I'm going to make a salad. It's not our DNA's requirements that we go out and do that stuff. Get many nutrients throughout the day, but in the course of a meal, you only need to pair up a couple of different things, or not even that, just single things and eat it. So for this particular thing, we're just going to go strictly towards life. Nothing gourmet here, nothing fancy. This is just, and it tastes amazing too. Simple can also taste very good. So just to show you what I'm doing here, I've got just carrots, organic. I've got some Gala apples, a Granny Smith green apple, and some ginger. I've got about 7 or 8 pounds worth of all organic stuff here that I'm going to put through my Jack LaLanne power juicer, and it's going to be awesome. And then I've also got, because it's juicing, it only takes a few minutes of this stuff to be exposed to oxygen in the air, and the enzymes start dying, and the enzymes is what helps increase the absorption rate so that your body ultimately uses the nutrients. So I've got these mason jars like this. I've got lots of them. And I've got this big one here, depending on how much comes out of here, I might just fill that whole thing up. And then those mason jars, the key thing is here, if I use this big one, I don't want to fill it to here, or even here. It's got to go all the way to the top so that there's as little air in there as possible. That's the objective. Then I put it in the refrigerator. So if I got enough to fill that whole thing up, I might fill it up and then overflow in one of the littler ones. Or you can also, most of the time when I do something like this, make juice ahead of time, I'll just put it into a bunch of little 8, 10, maybe 12 ounce mason jars, and then filling them to the top, no air in them whatsoever, and then I've got some juice for the next day or two. I typically don't like to store juice even without any air in them for more than 2 days. Then it's time to juice again. And the best thing, of course, is to just juice as you want to, but since it takes a few minutes to clean up the juicer, I'd rather do it once a day or once every other day. So I got the mason jars. So let's get to it, to health, happiness, healing, and no longer being a sucker to the drug companies and people, manufacturers that put out foods that have poisons in them, and then we pay them to poison us. That to me just doesn't make any sense at all. So let's boycott toxic food. Enough of us do that, and toxic food will disappear. It's the most efficient, most potent way we could possibly get rid of toxic food. So let's get on with the juicing, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes after we're done juicing. I got the apple wedges cut out. You don't want to put the seeds in there, because if you eat too many apple seeds, it's actually, there's arsenic poisoning in them. And a few won't hurt, but too many could do some damage. So that's the reason why I basically take the core of the apple out. And then over here, I'm just keeping the carrots and the ginger as is. Everything is rinsed off. I do not take the skin off of the apples or the carrots or the ginger or any of that. It all goes through. It's all organic. and there's a lot of nutrients in the skin on these things, so that's why I keep them in. I like starting with the big chunk of ginger, not chopped up, otherwise little pieces will shoot back into the trash back here and won't get juiced. So a big piece, and then I will push it through with a big piece or a couple big pieces of apple, just like this. And that way, as little as possible gets wasted. And before I'm done pushing the apple all the way down, I'll put in another piece or two of apple, and maybe every other one a carrot. And probably before, I don't know, I'm maybe a ½ inch or an inch below I reach, you know, as far down as I can push this, I'll put my next piece in so that something is constantly being pushed through. And I found I get a little bit more juice that way, a little more nutrients for my buck. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I'll take little small video excerpts of the process so you can see how this thing fills up. Typically, I've got one hand doing this over here grabbing and another hand working this thing over here, but because I'm doing the recording right now and I don't feel like getting out my tripod, but just so you know, it's a little easier when you got both hands free. That's basically the process, so let's continue. Alright, this baby is full, so I'm actually going to transfer this to that large mason jar, and then the plan right now is to just put it all in that thing and then shake it all up, because I've already put all the apples and the ginger through this thing, so that at the end of the day everything is sort of mixed evenly, the carrots, the apples, and the ginger. And then if I want to, I can divide it up after it's all mixed up into smaller mason jars, or however it works out. So let's continue. I've actually decided it will make far more sense to just put it all in this huge behemoth of a bowl, because that's certainly going to fit all of it. Then stir it all and then disperse it as I will, so that there's no air in the mason containers. Stir in the juice, the good stuff, the living, breathing life. Smells like life. So this is it. This is what I mean. There is no air getting in there whatsoever. Close this thing up. It is sealed. Keep it for a couple of days. And you know what? As it goes down too, I will actually transfer it into smaller mason jars. So you know what? As I'm doing this, this is the first time I put it into a large jar like this. But unless I'm planning on serving all of it at the same time, like maybe I got a couple people over, we're going to be juicing together, I'm not going to take some out of this and then let there be air in here and then finish it off the next couple of days. So I'm actually, now that I'm doing this, this is in the raw. That's why you guys love my videos. I'm going to transfer this to smaller mason jars, like single serving portions, so that when I have one, I drink it, there's no air, and all the freshness and the living enzymes are all sealed in, and it can, you know, do its stuff to be the super healers that it is. So that's what I mean by no air at all. None. Keep it lasting. And then of course, I'm going to have a serving right now, probably about, oh, I don't know, usually 8 ounces, but I'm going to start doing 10 or 12 ounces per serving now, so I got to go out and get new mason jars. And in case you're curious, about 7 or 8 pounds worth, I measured it out actually when I was pouring it into this to transfer it into a larger mason jar. Filled it once at exactly 4 cups, and a second time at 2 cups and 3/4. So, no wait, that's not true. Where was I? 3 cups and 3/4. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 cups and 3/4 of a cup worth of fresh juice from about 7 or 8 pounds worth of freshly juiced produce, organic. Here we go. I always get the drinking of the juice on all these cooking episodes and juicing episodes because it's so good. It can't be faked. It is so awesome. It cannot be like recaptured and faked and all. Well, maybe it could be faked if you're a great actor. I don't know, but man, I can't. This is, here we go. Smelling it first, it's like juicing foreplay before I taste it. Oh, okay, here we go. You know you're tasting life when you drink something like this. Okay, a few words as I'm sipping this. I want to let you know, I am not saying anything or producing anything to undermine your doctor or any healthcare professional whatsoever. I'm a layperson. I have zero qualifications in the medical industry. It's just the way it is. But I can still be a free-thinking human being, and I want you to be free-thinking people. And question the status quo. Question me. I'm humble enough. Just question me. Question the medical community. Question whatever is going on, and be more like a person rather than a hospital patient. And I don't know what your circumstances are. I don't know if you know people, who might be sick, who might, I don't know, maybe you're into preventative stuff as well as reversal, I don't know. It seems to me that the medical community makes no room for healing using nature. It's just medicine. And every pharmaceutical is toxic to the liver and the kidneys and all your vital organs, bar none. There's no exception to that. That's a fact. However, I think that the medical community and the naturopathic communities should be working together harmoniously because they're both vital, they're both needed, even pharmaceuticals. I believe that we're very over-medicated as a culture, and I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's certainly in our food supply. If it starts there, I don't know. It probably starts where the food is being grown in the soils that are so polluted with chemicals and pesticides and herbicides and all these other things that they treat the plants with that we then eat and we wonder why we're sick. Charlotte Gerson said that if you're going to eat nutrient deficient toxic food, you can't help but become a nutrient deficient toxic person. And the Gerson therapy, by the way, look that up. Question it too. It's awesome. I love them. They regard the soil as our external metabolism because it's the plants that grow in the soil. The plants get their nutrients from the soil. We get our nutrients from the plants. So if plants are getting their nutrient from soil that is nutrient deficient and is toxic from the pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and all these other chemicals they put in it, then the plants are going to be sick. The plants are going to be toxic. The plants are going to have no means of protecting themselves against disease and insects. When you have farmers that are caring for the soil, even more so than the plants because they realize the soil's fueling the health of the plants, which is going to fuel the health for people. So those intelligent farmers care more about the soil than anything because if the soil is cared for, the plants are going to take care of themselves. If the soil is full of all the trace minerals and nutrients it's supposed to have and free of chemicals, no pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and all those other things that the chemical companies are selling them, if the soil is nutrient dense and free of toxic crap and organic and all that, the plants are going to be so strong that they won't need to have chemicals sprayed on them to protect from insects and so on. The plants are going to be so strong and healthy, they will be able to protect themselves from insects and disease and things like that. And then you eat those plants, and you're going to have a strong immune system. You're going to be able to prevent yourself from getting sick and diseased, from getting cancer, heart disease, and a bunch of other stuff. And if you've already got it, there's people such as Gerson and others that use nature responsibly and intelligently. Cancer, every kind, is completely reversible if you've already got it, even if it's stage 4. There's all kinds of examples, such as people that go to the Gerson therapy after the doctor said there's nothing more we can do, just rounds of surgery, radiation, chemo, and all these other things. There's people that have gone to places like Gerson, and Gerson saved their life using nature without any medical treatment whatsoever. I think it's just so awesome, and since I've been learning all this stuff and seeing it from my own eyes, the proof is in the pudding. I can't help but to share it with you. And the stuff that I learned from my friend Avita over the past few days, she taught me some incredible stuff. And when I learned stuff like this that is not just life-changing, but life-saving and feeds life, I can't help but to share it. I feel I have a moral obligation to share all this stuff with the entire world and to share it, well, for free. I don't charge. My vegan cooking and juicing show that I have is free. I've got a website that I call fireyourboss.xyz, not .com, .xyz, fireyourboss.xyz. Go check it out. Pull from it whatever you need. You can find a link to my vegan cooking and juicing show there. You can find all kinds of blog posts about personal development and mindset stuff. You know, the stuff that creates the condition in your brain to be able to have the equipping to go after and get whatever you want, the skill set, the spiritual equipping, the psychological mindset, whatever it is that you need. Because freedom of the mind always comes first before you can create any kind of freedom for yourself, solve problems, fix things, be a healer and a contributor for other people on the planet, to have the ability to give more, contribute more, all those things, and whatever it is that you want to do, freedom of the mind has to come first. So most of my trainings and most of my stuff and my free stuff, tons of free stuff. I've got hundreds of blog articles, thousands of videos for free that you can just sink your teeth into, pull from it whatever makes sense for you, and just run with it. And don't be a sucker for pharmaceutical. Don't be a sucker for the drug companies. It's kind of a simple philosophy. It's like, why would you give anybody or any company your hard-earned money in exchange for being poisoned? Why would you pay someone to poison you? And the only pathway that I can really come up with for that is just willful consumer ignorance. I don't say that to put you down, but I don't think you do this on purpose. But I do think people are kind of ignorant on purpose, including me. I've got a lot to learn, but I've at least consciously recognized it as of a few years ago. And I'm making progress, and I'm on that journey now, and I've got the humility to just lend myself to correction and recorrection so I can be less ignorant with each passing day. But to be willfully ignorant means that we've got so much information out there. You can learn about anything that you could possibly want, and for free, really. And most people haven't even started. Most people aren't even asking questions, just making statements. And I found when you're making statements, you can't learn anything. When you're asking questions and you lend yourself to correction and recorrection and have that kind of humility, you put your ego in its place so that you can be humble enough to be lifted up, because the prideful are torn down, the humble are lifted up. Then you can embark on that journey and you can make discoveries that change your life. Not only your own life, but people around you and people that are open to the same kind of process. And then we can start this tidal wave of just massive positive impact, because I think the most important call to action we can have at this day and age, when we're seeing 8, 9 out of 10 people, 80-90% of the entire population is dying needlessly. We'll never get out of life alive, but there's very few people, maybe 1 out of 10, that die of natural causes after a long, healthy, happy, fulfilling life. Only about 1 out of 10. That's insane. And now our kids are dying. And the number one spike in demand for casket makers right now is for short, wide caskets, because our kids are getting fat. They're clogging up their carotid arteries and they're dying. There's kids as early as the 3rd or 4th grade on record with thickening in their carotid arteries, all from lifestyle. And what parent is going to knowingly spend money and pay companies to poison their kids and kill them? Nobody does that knowingly. But we are very willfully ignorant consumers. So I'm calling for a boycott of all toxic food. Just get educated, become aware, live consciously, and stop giving them your money. That is the only way we can stop that crap from ever occurring. It's unconscionable that companies are out there getting rich off of poisoning their consumers, but they do it, and the only pathway that they can do it is through sheer willful consumer ignorance. So boycott all toxic food. Do it for your kids, yourself, your family. It's so much bigger than you. Petitions don't work. Signing stuff, protesting with the placard out in the street doesn't work. They follow the money. So put the money into the farmers that are growing GMO-free food, no genetically modified organisms, all organic, from nutrient-dense soils. Put your money towards those things and we get more of it, and the toxic stuff disappears. We boycott toxic food, it goes away. And that will have a domino effect over every aspect of our lives, our health, our happiness, our economy, both macro and micro, our productivity in the country, our productivity as families and as individuals, how we feel, all of it, all of it. Less disease, more health, more wealth, more abundance, and the ability to just enjoy more and feel more. We will be better connected to our souls if the vessel that our soul occupies, our physical body, is well taken care of. So it's a beautiful way to live. Spread this word. If this video you got value from, and if you feel this video is worthy, share it. Share it on your social medias. Talk about it. Like it. Comment on it. Share your thoughts. And let's perpetuate this message of good and of healing. And the toxic food will go away. And poor people, rich people, middle people, all financial classes will be able to afford really awesome, amazing food. People say that the poor are out of options. In one respect, they kind of are. Anybody can certainly, gain the skill set and learn new things to change their situation. But for people that are just unwilling to change their situation, we can still make healthy food affordable for everybody, no matter who they are, and make the toxic food expensive because there's just no more demand for it. Wouldn't that be great? Let's do it. Share this. Spread the wealth. Let's get a message of good and of healing out there in endless perpetuity, and put those companies who profit from poisoning us out of business. Change the landscape of our food, and that changes everything else. It changes business. It changes our personal lives, professional lives. And I'll close on this last note, because this is going way more deeper than I was originally planned it on, but sometimes I get off on a topic and I go. But there are people in your life, lots of people, who 5 to 10 years from now are not going to be around anymore because of how they are health-wise, because they're paying companies to poison them to death. And maybe you're contributing to that unknowingly, but willfully ignorant, but unknowingly. You buy people that you love and care about, your kids, people in your family, food, unknowing that these foods are toxic, and there's going to be, these people, they're not going to be around 5 to 10 years from now. I promise you, 5 to 10 years from now or sooner, there's going to be all kinds of people you love and care about who are with you today, but will not be 5 years or 10 years from now. So if that doesn't motivate you to boycott toxic food, I don't know what possibly could, but hopefully that did the trick. I'll talk to you guys later. FireYourBoss.xyz, visit it, poke around, take whatever makes sense for you, and stay tuned for the next vegan cooking and juicing show and my next blog postings. Cheers, everyone, to your health and happiness. Let's heal as a planet together. We're in it together.